Brian Culhane, how are you today?
Wow, Lisa, I'm telling you, I was a little pumped up before this, but now after that intro, I'm like super pumped up. Let's go.
We got to do it right, man. You and your family have been traveling. It looks like you've been like doing the car trip with your three daughters and your wife around the country. So, first of all, let me just introduce everybody. Mr. Brian Culhane, he is the co-founder of eXp Realty, the fastest growing real estate company in the world, I might add. So before we get into that, tell us about what you guys have been up to as a family. It looks like you've been traveling around the country.
Yeah, we just decided to throw the family in the war wagon, I call it. I got a nice little vehicle, and we threw everybody in there, and we just decided to go up to Mount Rushmore. So we figured out actually found a great little tip for those that want to do some road trip, and there's a app called Road Trippers. So it's awesome. I just started putting in my destination and then just started figuring out how many hours I wanted to drive. So we actually did a night in Moab. So we left Phoenix. I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. We left Phoenix last Saturday and then drove all the way up to Moab, did a night in Moab, checked out some petroglyphs. And my kids are into dinosaurs, and I got two boys and a little girl. And so we basically did that whole thing. Then we cruised through up into the Rockies into Vail. And we did a night in Vail, Colorado, and then we blew out into Cheyenne, Wyoming, and then up to South Dakota, Custer, South Dakota. Spent 3 nights on a beautiful cabin on the lake up there in Sylvan Lake, and then worked our way back through Denver. Did a night in Santa Fe, and then we just got home last night.
And here you are. I will tell you, eXp World is on here to welcome you. I'm just going to put up some of the agents, whether they're in our organization, but everybody's in your organization, I think. And yeah, so anyways, everyone's saying hi. So for all of you out there that are in eXp World and whose organization you're in, I would recommend that right now that you share this out, share it out on your Facebook page. Everybody needs to hear what Brian's going to talk about. So Brian, my gosh, you've had so many titles at eXp. And for those of you who don't know eXp, we are the fastest growing real estate company in the world. I think we just hit 31,000 agents, and you were at the very beginning of the dynasty. So tell us a little bit about you and how you got there. It's just the math. I love that.
Hashtag it's just math, right? Well, it's the power of the force multiplier effect, but I'll talk about that in a minute. But no, I appreciate that, and thank you very much. And by the way, we are all shareholder partners. So no matter who joins eXp, because of the stock, we are all partnered together financially, and we have a vested interest in each other's success. And I think that's a very important tie that binds, and you just don't see that in any other real estate organization. I played sports growing up. I played basketball. I coached basketball and did it all, and even played into college. And there are 2 types of teams out there. There's sort of the wrestling team, and then there's sort of the football, baseball, basketball team. And if you think about the wrestling team or a track team, you may work out together, you may wear the same jersey, but at the end of the day, you might have to wrestle each other for that gold medal, right? And so I think of that as a lot of other real estate brokerages out there. Even though you all have the same jerseys on and go to the same offices, you have to compete with each other for that deal, and you don't really have a vested interest in each other's success. And I think at eXp, we're much more like a true team where, people that join your organization, people that join in Florida, people that join in Detroit, to join in Texas, wherever they're at, it's a win for me, because if they're successful and productive, that's going to help the stock, and the stock goes up, and I have a lot of it. So, and as any agent that joins eXp, you get stock very quickly through just selling houses. So we all kind of have that little extra incentive to help each other and work together. And I just think that's not to be lost in any conversation about eXp. But great question. To get back to your question, where did it all come from? So I like to think of I'm kind of pre-XP, right? I'm a pre-eXp person. As a matter of fact, I'll take you back a little bit and just kind of tell you the story here. So again, grew up in Chicago. I was kind of a blue-collar kid in a white-collar neighborhood. Grew up on the other side of the tracks. I was a caddy, a busboy, worked for the railroad. Box crew, construction. I mean, if there was a shovel and steel toe boots, I had the job. And so, but I learned hard work. I learned, to be a role player and also a leader. And then obviously through sports and playing at a high level, I expanded on that. And then I think I was about 27, 28 years old. I'd gotten sick of the Chicago winters. I hadn't seen the sun in about 6 months. And I threw all my clothes in a garbage bag, no joke. It was a hefty cinch sack, Lisa, so don't feel too bad, right? It was a, it was a
I
robust
wasn't
garbage
judging you.
bag.
I was not judging you.
But I did. I threw all my clothes in a bag and jumped in my buddy's car, and I headed west. And we ended up in Phoenix. And I had kind of cut my teeth in sales and architectural engineering and environmental due diligence, and also, which is basically glorified commercial inspection reports, right? And then I also was doing commercial real estate trade magazine ad sales. So I was selling advertising for companies like Globe Street and Real Estate Forum magazine. And so I learned about real estate. I was kind of in that commercial space. So I thought that's what the big fish did, was they built skyscrapers. That's kind of what I wanted to do. And so when I got out to Arizona, I started interviewing and I said, I'm going to get my real estate license. That's the first thing I did when I got out here. So I said, I'm going to go to real estate school. And I was
Brian.
That was in 2004.
Okay.
So I was,
over the last 16 years is you have built this empire, and and that's just huge to the story, right? To the plot.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm really, if you think about it, I'm kind of, they say kind of a walking testament. I'm kind of a limping testament because I had a really bad hip. I broke my hip in 2011, but I'll share that in a second. But basically, I was working with, I was getting my license, and I thought I was going to go into commercial real estate, and I started responding to jobs. And again, I was on like my last couple of weeks of unemployment. I just started training to wait tables at a local restaurant here. I was checking my email at the public library.
Brian, how many people do you think right now, with the world events that have happened, with this pandemic, that have been furloughed, that have got that because I'm all about the storyline, right? And have that very same story today, right now in 2020?
Lots of people. I mean, listen, it's as old as time. That's the story. I do feel like you have two choices. You can have a really good sob story, or you can have a really good success story. And ultimately, you're the author. And so how do you want your story to end? And, I think even if you think about Napoleon Hill and sort of, Think and Grow Rich and an Interview with the Devil,
well, hold on. I'm going to stop you right there, because you know who's on here right now watching you. Speaking of outwitting the devil,
who
is Mrs. Sharon Lecter, who is
Sharon.
on my team. And Michael Lecter. Of course, she was the author with Napoleon Hill of, she annotated the book of Outwitting the Devil, and they got it immediately. And she and Michael were the co-founders of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the most successful personal development brand still to this day in the world. And they joined eXp.
And hi guys. And but by the way, those are some of the most important things you can learn in business. I mean, success philosophy is what it's all about. And my biggest takeaway from Outwitting the Devil was, that Napoleon went around and interviewed all the successful people that he could find. And then he went around and interviewed all the failures. And he said he couldn't find necessarily a common thread about the successful people, but he did find one common trait that all the failures had. And that's that they ultimately had an ironclad sob story. And they just repeated it over, and they polished it, and they shined it, and they knew it inside and out and backwards and forwards. And I'm big in brain and neurological pathways, and I do some biohacking, and I jump in ice water, and I do a lot of work in the mental hygiene space, and there's literally a chemical interaction every thought we have, and that scores a groove in your brain tissue, and so just to be repeating that sob story of why you got
poor me, poor pitiful me.
Yeah, the poor me. I got cheated by a boss.
It's always the boss's fault, right?
Yeah, or somebody didn't deliver, right? So that was kind of, and I don't know. I just learned that at an early age that, I was in control of my own destiny. I think my dad pulled me aside when I was sophomore in high school and said, Brian, if you don't get a scholarship, you're not going to college. I can't afford to send you. And I think I had like a 1.6 GPA, and I was getting in fights under the bridge with the tough guys. And well, anyways, Chicago mean streets of Highland Park, Illinois. But so I, basically, I started responding to ads and interviewing, and I had some relationships. But one of the things that caught my eye was a Craigslist ad. And so that Craigslist ad was Glenn Sanford. And at the time in 2005, Glenn was basically probably the first expansion team rainmaker in the history of Keller Williams. So he was the first doing it in any significant way. So Glenn is kind of a whole nother success story, but when you have him on your show, he can tell you more about the details. But long story short, he didn't just start one team. He started 6 teams at once. And so he went from 0 to 6, and he started them in 6 cities. And when I look back on what Glenn was doing, was he was kind of like the original lifestyle designer. He was picking cities that he liked to travel to. He grew up in Canada, was living in Bellingham, Washington, and he was an internet guy. So he was building websites in markets that he wanted to travel to. And his idea was to build a sustainable, long-lasting business that he had something to show for a life in sales after his last sale. So that was kind of his original concept, was to kind of run. Basically, he was running the Millionaire Real Estate Agent playbook. But as Glenn would say, he had to leave. He's probably one of the first people to ever achieve the 7th level, but he had to leave Keller Williams to do it. But I'll let him get into that on another show. But so I met Glenn off of Craigslist. He came in and interviewed me. True story. I was still testing. I think I was on like school test number 4 or 5.
Right, Brian? You cannot even make it up.
Yeah, I mean, I won't even get into the details, but definitely I had to like figure out a way to pass that test, because the job had been offered me to be a team leader. And Glenn had the number 1 ranked website, or number 2 ranked website in Phoenix already. And he had tried it with another gentleman who was a top agent here in the Valley. And the guy didn't close 1 deal out of 100 leads, and he pulled it back from him and he gave it to me. And again, I was still in real estate. I didn't know what I was saying yes to be honest with you, but I'm always kind of a go guy. That's what Glenn always said about me. I think that's my unofficial title, was the go executive. Also, and
just saying yes to things sometimes, it's just going, okay, yeah, why not?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I think about that. I said that to my wife yesterday. I said, if we we put a lot of people into real estate school and we give scholarships, and I wondered if I offered to 100 people in real estate school a team leader position, how many out of 100 would have said yes? And now, listen, I'm not saying I'm like, I knew all this was going to happen. I don't think I had any other options. And I had a really gorgeous girlfriend that I needed to start making some money, or she was going to disappear. So I was like, I'll take the job. Let's go. What do I do? Yes. And so I got in and I started working his leads and I started growing his team. And so from the very beginning, my responsibilities were expansion, production, and cultivating leadership. And so that was always kind of the MO.
It's just for people just jumping on right now, because we got them jumping on like crazy. I'm with Brian Culhane, the co-founder of eXp Realty, and he share this out, all you eXp people. We got them on from all over the country, Brian. It's crazy. We got Hawaii on here and Canada and all kinds of places. Share this out. He's now telling the Keller Williams story. All right, back to you on that.
So, so Glenn was running this model, and he, kind of was installing team leaders, and then it was our job to do this. And again, he was doing this in 6 cities around the country. He was doing it in Bellingham, Seattle, Portland, Long Beach, Las Vegas, and Phoenix. All right. So as a Canadian and up in Bellingham, he liked the sunnier cities. He liked to travel down here. And so we were actually doing so well because, again, we generated billions of dollars worth of leads from his internet experience, and he was just a master. I think at one time we had more top-ranked websites in real estate than any other entity. And so we stepped out and we started our own brokerage, not called eXp, by the way. It was called Buyer Tours. And so, again, internet leads, very buyer-centric. We had a whole philosophy on how to close a higher percentage of, convert a higher percentage of internet leads than the average agent. And again, Glenn was always kind of in this mindset of a champion. He's always been kind of a manifester. He's always been a think big, type person, and kind of. Yeah, and you know what? Probably the first thing Glenn ever taught me, and probably still to this day, one of the most essential things that I think I've ever learned in the real estate space was there's 2 types of real estate agents, and really there's 2 types of mindsets. There's business people that happen to be doing real estate, and there's real estate people that happen to be doing business. And so he taught me to be more of an entrepreneur that was leveraging and using eXp as the vehicle, or using real estate as the vehicle. And so I'm a business person that happens to be in real estate. And by business person, I mean, I implement systems, I implement teams, and I can scale up. And if you think about Kiyosaki and the cash quadrants and Rich Dad, Poor Dad, right? There's having a job, and then there's self-employed, and that's 80% of the population, right? And self-employed just means you own your own job, right? But you still do it all yourself, and that's 80%.
But Ron, I just have to say, we're not going to talk about Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad. We're talking about Sharon and Michael Lecter.
Sharon and Michael Lecter's book, and that's
co-founder and
I mean, that's
become an eXp agent. Let's just call it.
There's so much wisdom in those books, though, and thank you, Sharon, and for putting that together, and the Lecters, because you guys really, I mean, you nailed it, and that I use that cash quadrant in every conversation I have about eXp
all the time. She talks about it all the time.
Well, and for me, the takeaway is so then you got self-employed, and right, so you job, self-employed, and then you got business owner and investor, and that's 80% of the wealth. And so how do you get from being self-employed to business owner? Well, the truth is, in essence, there's not a lot of difference. I mean, they're the same thing. They're both entrepreneurs. The difference is in what they do. And the business owners implement systems and leverage teams. And you don't need to go out and hire 100 people. And certainly in real estate, I mean, you could partner with someone who's licensed and bring in a licensed assistant and pay them out of closings. I mean, there's so many, your mortgage, your title. I mean, sometimes it's just recognizing your team, that you have a team around you that separates the difference between being self-employed and business owner. So I'm on the right side of the column. I'm in the wealth building column, right? That's how I think of myself. I'm a wealth builder. I'm not just a real estate agent, right? And I think if you are just an agent chasing deals, you're more of a hunter gatherer. And I think
it's sustainable.
It's not sustainable. It's a tough,
scalable.
It's not scalable.
I'm going to be 102 out there wiping down doorknobs and taking my shoes off. Like, let's be real. No. It's all about leverage, right? Leveraging a team, leveraging influence, leveraging celebrity, leveraging everything we leverage with eXp.
Because there's two, I call them two caste systems. There's two, for the history of real estate, there's been two castes. It's been the owner class and the member class, and the members serve the owners, and the owners can enjoy certain things that the members didn't. And I think those three things have been, they get to own, right? So they own a piece of an asset. So that's number one. Number two, they get to participate in all the revenue. So they get a little piece of every transaction. And number three, they get to scale up. And if you're struggling and you're an owner, what do? You just bring in 5 more agents, or you open up another office. But if you're struggling as a real estate agent, what do they tell you to do? Go work harder, right? Go sell more houses, because they're the ones that send their kids to college, and they're the ones that drive around in the Ferraris, and we're told to go work harder. And I think listen, I've brought in thousands of agents over my career, and I've talked to tens of thousands, and they all kind of, listen, we're all sort of only as good as our last sale. And I have a lot of people in my organization that if they would have picked any other business but real estate, they'd be on boards of directors, and they'd be, they'd have golden parachutes and benefits packages, but unfortunately they picked real estate. And whether
slave to the man when that happens.
Right. And no matter what, I don't care if you had a 25-year career of being a killer agent, you got to start over next year and do it all over again. And every year after that, and you rinse and repeat and push the rock up the hill. It's like that myth of Sisyphus, right? You just push the rock up the hill and it rolls back down, and you do it again next year, and you do it again next year. And you never really get to exit the game gracefully. You can leave with your tail between your legs, but you don't get to leave. And by the way, you think the typical passer, well, I'm gonna start a brokerage, or I'm gonna be a team leader, but that's no guarantee either. And
many people think, Brian, like they're working so hard to get their name on the sign. And I was an automotive dealer, right? I was a new car automotive dealer, #1 in the world. But I will tell you this: the minute your name comes off the sign, people are like, "Who?" Right? So it isn't about having your name on the sign. It's about building legacy. It's about building a team. It's about building a sustainable and scalable business that rinse and repeat and replicates, whether you're there every single day or not. And you are the man who has done that.
It's about building wealth.
It is.
And there's many kinds of income, right, Lisa? And they don't all come in the same shape and size.
That's right.
And you think about lower forms of income like hourly, salary, contract work, and I'm going to even throw commissions in there. And those things all have one thing in common, and that's you. And in other words, if something happens to you, what happens to the income? It stopped. Goodbye. And just like when I broke my hip in 2011, only a year into eXp, fell off my mountain bike, broke my hip in half, couldn't walk for 9 months.
Now he's a mountain biker and he comes home, he's all banged up, and I'm like, you're bloody, and he's like, oh, but my helmet saved my life. Last week it was I rolled down a cliff. I know he's watching. I'm like, really? Wow. Right.
No, but that's listen. Let's put it this way, Lisa. I did not have breaking my hip in my business plan, right? I was a young guy. My wife was pregnant with our second kid. We had just built a house. She worked for the team, so she wasn't over collecting a big benefits package and a huge healthcare. We were paying out of pocket. I don't even think we had insurance, to be honest with you. As hey, real estate agents, right? We don't typically have insurance. We're not great at saving up to pay our taxes.
We have all that the eXp though, but anyways, keep going.
Well, we do, and obviously that's not an accident. But so speaking of accidents, like that happened, right? I had this major traumatic experience, and now I can't get out of bed for months, and I'm using a walker for 9 months, and that gave me I'm actually fortunate that I broke my hip at an early age, because it gave me two things. One, it gave me the foresight of a 90-year-old cripple, and life is not pretty if you can't have your mobility. I'm just telling you, it's game over. Okay. Number one. So I was, I wasn't living as clean as I am today. Let's put it that way. I was about 75 pounds overweight and, burning the candle at both ends and stressed out and just the whole thing. So I've really had to retransform my health. And the other thing it gave me the appreciation of is a passive income lifestyle, because if you build passive and you can build equity, those you can step away from and they continue to grow with or without you. And those are what I call wealth building incomes. The previous things that I listed, I would call those transactional incomes. In other words, there has to be a transaction or trading of time, effort, or something for money. But when you start building your wealth incomes, you can literally step away over time and they will grow with or without you. So for example,
if you never sell another house today, you're okay, right?
I just put actually my wife put 3 deals under her name, but we just put 3 deals under contract. I haven't worked that hard in the last 2 weeks. I haven't worked that hard in the last 2 years on sales because I don't have to. And that's what Glenn would say. He goes, listen, I may never retire, but I'd like to have the option to retire at some point. And I could retire today. I have enough stock and I have enough passive income where I probably have more money than I could ever spend.
I mean, coming from a guy that grew up on the other side of the tracks, grew up in Chicago, didn't know what you were going to do. You answered a call. You said yes. How many people in life that I've trained thousands of salespeople in the automotive industry and some in real estate. KW hired me a long time ago to come in and work with their teams. And, and you have to say yes sometimes, right? You got to put yourself out there. You got to take a chance. And I find the best people are the ones who have their backs up against a wall. I want to hire somebody who tells me I have to make my mortgage next month. And so I got to figure it out. Like, to me, I'm like, yes, you are my kind of people.
100%. I actually just put that on Facebook a couple of days ago. I don't know if you saw it, but I said, if you don't have your back up against the wall, manufacture one. Because I work best, and it's just like the Sun Tzu, right? Sun Tzu, the famous warrior for China. He was one of the top generals, wrote the book, The Art of War. Sun Tzu would strategically place his soldiers with their backs up against the cliff or a river or some body of water or a mountain behind them. So he knew the only way they were getting out was fighting and winning. It's just like when Cortez came and came in and invaded the Caribbean. He said we're going to burn the boats. And they said, well, how are we getting home? And he goes, we're going home in their boats or we're not going home. Amen. And so this idea of burning the boats or putting your back up against the wall, I mean, that is when it galvanizes your mind and it forces you to get serious. And again, I don't have a lot of that now in my life. So I do find myself manufacturing crises just to stay in that same headspace.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's what I think is, that's what's critical. And there's just, again, for those of you who are just tuning in, I've got on Brian Culhane, the co-founder of eXp Realty. I think we just hit 31,000 agents globally. But he answered a Craigslist ad. How many times is our destiny sitting there and we just need to say yes? I know there's somebody out there watching this right now that just needs to say yes, right? And so, Brian, so take us to, you all made the decision. You had the other brokerage, but you made the decision you're going to form a company called eXp.
Yeah. So when we stepped out of Keller, we started a traditional brokers. Now Glenn had every expense times 6, hired a broker, got leases in 6 cities, paid for the marketing, paid for the websites, everything times 6. And so, he was running a pretty hefty bill for that. And then he had to also travel logistically and visit, and that cost money and time and energy. And so, but we were doing well. And then of course, in 2008, the market crashed. And that was really the beginning of sort of when the rug was pulled out from under us. That was our crisis event, if you will. And that crisis event forced us to rethink the entire operation. And so I'll never forget, Glenn called a big team meeting, got everybody together, got all his team leaders. There's me and 6 other counterparts. And we got all together in a Phoenix hotel. And he said, listen, folks, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad for a while. We need to come up with an economy-proof brokerage model. And we were all like, okay, when do we get our offices back? And he goes, never, right? And he goes, if we don't make this work, we're going to all have to go find other jobs. And that was the beginning of sort of the eXp germ that he was kind of cultivating and working on. And Glenn was just a consummate entrepreneur. I think he had started something like 16 companies before eXp. It's taken companies public. He was a self-proclaimed bomber. He had been an America Online financial chat room advisor. So he says he figured out it very early on that he was a terrible employee.
That's me. I'm a terrible employee. Who wants to work for someone else? Boo.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Lisa, when you were 12 years old, sitting in class, dreaming of what you wanted to be, I doubt it was to be a senior account rep VP at an XYZ company, right?
Well,
I mean,
it wasn't to be a car salesman, which is what I did at about 20 years old. Like, you never know when your back gets thrown up against a wall, but good things happen from all of that.
Well, and we all, I think, have that passion, that fire somewhere inside of us, and a lot of us tamp it down and dampen it down and sort of kind of make concessions and sort of and sometimes it's to not outshine our friends and family, and that's actually doing them a disservice, by the way. But I do think that it's not fear of failure, it's fear of success that holds a lot of people back. Failure is comfortable. It's our default position. It's where we're used to being, and being successful is actually a challenge, and it's scary,
and it also comes with great responsibility. I wrote about that in my first book, and I love that you said that, because the minute you hit the pinnacle, right, you hit the big time, now everybody's watching. So now if you're up here and you fail, it's a lot more public and it hurts a lot more than when you were down here and that was your story, right?
100%. I mean, it's easy to hide from your boss or hide from your spouse or your parents. But like when you start bringing in partners and you start bringing in people that rely on you and staff, like you have to either step up or you're going to fail. And so that's also been part of my journey is, it holds me more accountable. Having an organization at eXp makes me have integrity, because if I say I'm going to teach a class, or I say I'm going to fly out and do a lunch and learn, or I'm going to do a Zoom call for you next week or whatever, I better show up, because you're only going to ask me once. And if I don't show up, you're not going to ever ask me again. And then I'm letting people down. And that's actually like that's like my core wound, right? Is inadequacy and not being good enough, and growing up with a bunch of successful, affluent kids and not having the knockoff Michael Jordans when all the other kids had the real Michael Jordans. That's kind of my childhood wound, right? But there's gold in those wounds, and I've turned that baggage into fuel, and a big part of that is just mindset. It's.
So what would you say to somebody, Brian, that's out there right now? You've got a bunch of your organization, my organization, Tarek's, like a bunch of our people are on here right now, but there's a bunch of people that I can see right now that are not. And I know that they're thinking about it. What would you say to somebody right now, who's struggling, who's fearful of the future? Like, you can't turn on the television. Like, this is level 8 Jumanji. There's no doubt about what's going on in the world today. And it's just going, I don't know what to do. So they're panicked, they're scared, they're paralyzed. They don't know where their next, deal's coming from. What would you say to them?
You got to embrace your hero journey, right? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? Because listen, the only commodity you can get everything in life back. You can get your money back. You can get your health back. I can
Maybe.
testify to that.
Yeah.
But you can't get your time back.
Right.
I mean, that is the one thing that is the most important commodity that we should all just be like, cultivating every single day and waking up every day going, how can I take advantage of this, 3,000 breaths I'm going to take in the next hour or whatever, because you don't get that back. And so it's seize the moment, be the hero of your journey, because here's the reality. You're going one way or another. Fate is either going to drag you kicking and screaming, or you can step up and rise to the occasion. And we all were given sort of a gift or a unique ability to make the world a better place. And so I say, dig deep. Think about what your gift is. Why were you sent here? And what is your unique thing that you're here to make this world a better place for? And then just embrace that and get after it. And by the way, it may be eXp, it may be something else. But for me, eXp is a vehicle. Right? eXp isn't define me. eXp is the vehicle that allows me to help more people. If I was just out there trying to help myself, great. But now, like I'll say it this way, Lisa, because I started my first business at eXp, now I can do any business I want, right? We started a production company where I just plunked down $30,000 for an invention idea that's been rattling around my head for 10 years. I'm seeing myself kind of going back and dusting off those old manuscripts and those old poems.
Because you can. Explain to us why your shirt says #It's just math.
Well, I mean, that's it. People always ask, what's the core sort of, what is eXp in a nutshell? And, how would you describe it? Is it a tech revolution? Is it a cultural revolution? And I say
I want you to hit on, because it's not, some people say to me, is this a network marketing company? I'm like, no, we don't sell pills and creams and makeup. No, we are a real estate brokerage who trains the best and biggest teams in the world. But
well, so let's talk about that. So that's the elephant in the room, and that is sort of the misconception that a lot of people
hear it from the man.
And I'll just tell you right now, do you know what the alternative to a brokerage ownership team that shares the revenue with the members is? One that just keeps it all for themselves. So I never understood why they're the good guys and we're the scheme, right? Sharing the revenue with the agents is a scheme. But the guys and gals that just keep all the revenue for themselves and their families, they're the noble ones. I just don't understand that. And so to me, it's a compensation plan revolution. Right now, just through doing what we're already doing, which is selling houses and interacting with other real estate agents. Because folks, if you're in real estate for over 6 months, you've got 100 agents in your contacts in your phone alone, right? So think about that. You've got thousands. If you've been in real estate for a couple, 5, 10, 15 years, you've got thousands of real estate friends and family that you know. And you don't have the ability to monetize any of those relationships. Yeah, you can maybe get a referral from 1 or 2 of them, but ultimately they're all competition to you. Okay. Well, hey, you join eXp. This is an opportunity to now monetize all of those relationships, right? And so to me, it's a compensation plan revolution. It's nothing short of a real estate reformation, because what Glenn and the few of us have done that started this company is we've created the ability for the average agent to now participate in what used to be exclusively held in the hands of the owner class. And by that, I mean own a piece of the asset through the stock. I can participate in the revenue through the 7-level gross commission-based revenue sharing. And I can scale up my business anywhere in the world by adding agents to my revenue share organization, right? So now I am effectively the owner of the Brian Culhane real estate brokerage powered by eXp Realty. And that is revolutionary. That's the revolution. It's that we've taken the tools of ownership. If you think about it, I was a theology guy. I don't want to get too into the weeds on that. But if you think about the Reformation period, I mean, ultimately what Martin Luther did was he took the tools of the elite clergy, the Bible, which had been kept in, they didn't even let you see it, right? Hey, we'll just tell you what's in it, right? Well, now he said, hey, if it's the word of God, everyone should have access to it. Now the printing press had just come out. So he's like, I'm going to print it and give it to everybody. Well, that's what Glenn did. He took the tools of ownership and he's given them to the masses. And now we all can play the game.
Yeah. And so what do you see, you look at your organization and I love it because I'm in your organization. I think, there's Tarek, there's me, there's Haas above that. I mean, it's
Boss Haas.
Yeah, Boss Haas, Tarek El Muso from
actually, wait, it's now Hollywood Haas.
Hollywood Haas. Okay. Yes. I mean, and what's crazy, my best story is that Haas and I had the same agent in New York, and that's how we met 2 years ago. And I was in automotive and he was in real estate. And so I just kept on getting all of his emails for 2 years, y'all. Anybody else I would have unsubscribed to, but I liked this Texan. I liked this guy. We had chatted several times. And one day, after all of my speaking gigs had been canceled because of the pandemic, and I was just sitting around going, maybe I just need to retire. Maybe I just need to like ride off into the sunset, because everything I was going to do had been canceled or rescheduled. Right. And then I got an email from Haas, something about whatever. And I thought, I'm going to call Haas. And the first thing out of his mouth is, you have a real estate license? And I'm like, yeah, I own a mortgage company. I've got a real estate license. And he's like, get to Dallas.
Well, you know,
I said,
well,
yeah.
Haas is unbelievable. And that, like, again, you answered the call, right? I mean, number one, and that's it. I think you touched on this earlier, Lisa, but I think it really is, you know, a lot of us think, and maybe the few of sitting on the call right now going, when is opportunity going to knock on my door?
Where is it?
Right. Well, but here's what I really believe, and I really believe this. It's not that opportunity rarely knocks. I think opportunity never stops knocking. And what ends up happening is we get sick of it, and we tune it out, and we get numb to it, and we become opportunity averse, and we get an aversion to being sold or pitched. And we just say, I've heard it all. I don't want to hear it. Don't pitch me. And by the way, we're in sales. Like, and we're the worst people to be pitched, right? So it's like notorious. I'm not, but
I'm not. I'm the easiest person in the world to sell.
Me too. Don't get me on the phone with a sales guy, because I'm gonna end up buying it.
Me too.
But and that's my wife. She's like, Brian, we got to take away your phone. But I've had to improve my opportunity vetting systems. So for me, it takes work to look at opportunity. It's challenging. It hurts your brain. You got to like run numbers and look at returns on investment and blah, 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 blah. And so I think a lot of us just do the Heisman, like, oh, I don't want to even look at it. Right. And, or I'm too busy. I know I've always seen it all. And that's just like a negative program. That's self-limiting beliefs. You know, it's like, you know, we just get kind of, we think we know more than we know. And that's obviously Socrates' greatest evil, is to think we know when we don't know. And so basically it's like, just be open opportunity, just hear it out. And this is like my favorite piece of philosophy from Leonard Lavin. By the way, he was one of the chairmen of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. My mom's actually been the private nurse. So she was the private nurse for 2 Napoleon Hill. So going back to the Lectors, going back to, she did. No, I don't know. They may know, but so it was W. Clement Stone. So she was the private nurse for W. Clement Stone, who made a killing in insurance, and was doing, instead of going door to door and selling individual insurance policies, he figured out to go to office and sell 50 policies at a time. Hashtag it's just math. And then secondly was Leonard Lavin, who wrote the book Winners Make It Happen, was an started Alberto Culver, was known as the company turnaround guy. And my mom was the private nurse for each of those gentlemen for 10 years each. And when I used to go out for dinner, and my mom would have me and my wife come out to meet with Leonard, and he was in his 90s, and the guy was like the mayor of Del Mar, and he'd sit in the, you know, he'd invite us down to the winner's circle. And I'm struggling real estate agent. I'm like broke as a joke and can barely get gas money to get out there, right? We're sitting at dinner in the Pamplemousse and the chef's private table, and I'm just picking his brain. I mean, I'm pulling the Napoleon Hill. I'm interviewing the successful people. Yeah. And I'm going, you know, Leonard, I go, what's the best piece of business advice you could ever give someone? And he sat there and he thought about it for a second. He goes, it's okay to say no. Just be 100% sure you know what you're about to say no to. And that just hit me like a ton of bricks, because it's exactly the kind of business I'm in. I am out there presenting opportunity all day long. And so many people dismiss it before they even look at it. And you know why I think he said that? Because in another meeting or lunch dinner a couple weeks later, he told a different story about a young gentleman who came to him once and wanted to invest in individually packaged yogurt container concept. And he just blew him out. He didn't even look at it. He said, get out of here, kid. You know, that sounds stupid. I don't even want to look at it. Well, it ended up being Dannon yogurt, right? So here he is, 90-something years old. He was already a billionaire before he sold Alberto Culver for $6 billion to Unilever. And that one moment of not following his own advice haunted him. Like, he was still haunted by that decision for the rest of his life. And so I wonder how many people, and believe me, the most commonly uttered phrase of people who join eXp is,
I wish I would have done it earlier.
Exactly. 100%. I've heard that 1,000 or more times from people. I wish I would have joined when you first reached out to me, Brian, 6 years ago. Of course, so does you and 1,000 other people. Because,
right.
but they,
right, come on.
well, and why do we do that? Why do we think, oh, and here's now that's also an interesting dilemma for those folks, because they have to make another decision, because now they know they should have done it, but now pride kicks in, and then they go, well, maybe it's not meant to be, and I don't want to admit that I blew it 6 years ago or last year or 6 months ago or whatever. And then they start to think, well, maybe the opportunity's already gone. It's already left the port, right? The ship's sailed, right? Or the opportunity is too late. It's not too late, right? We're 31,000 of what could be 500,000 global, or will be.
Okay,
right?
So what is your number, Brian? What is the number? What do you see, you and Glenn see forecast in the next 36 months? Let's just kind of take it a little bit more bite-sized.
Yeah. So
we'll
probably finish the year close to 40,000.
Really?
Or more. I mean, listen, I'm going to be a little conservative, but I think you could maybe add a little bit to these numbers. But I'd say we'll probably finish the year in the 40s.
Hold on. August 1st of 2020, we're at 31,000-ish, right? I got that email.
Yep.
You're saying December 31st of 2020, 40-ish thousand?
Potentially. I mean, we're averaging about 1,500 a month net gain, right? So that's and that's been sustained over the last 3-4 years. So we doubled. We added 15,000 agents in the last year, and so the goal, conservatively, I think, is like 100,000 by 2025. Okay, so that's 36 months out, 40, maybe 48.
Yeah. So people, what are we doing here, right? I mean, we're still at the beginning of something big, and now
that's just in North America.
Well, and that's North America, but think how much easier it is to sell it today. That's what I thought about. I think I can sell anything to anybody. I mean, I relaunched Fiat to America, for God's sakes. You can sell Fiat.
I love that story. Yeah.
Right. But that being said, now we have the credibility. We've got the Lectors and Tarek El Mousso and Haas Pratt and, all of that. So we have the story to tell. We have the success. How much easier today is it than it was when you were out saying, hey, do you want to leave your really successful brokerage and take a chance?
Yeah. I mean, look at the sign I have. How many success stories do you need to hear before you start creating your own?
Right.
And that's it. I mean, it used to be impossible. I mean, they looked at us like we were aliens selling, sand to, somebody living in the desert. I mean, it was like, I don't need this. You don't have offices? Get out of here. You're like, that'll never work. I mean, we must have been like what Netflix experienced when they were pitching, streaming home movies, right? I actually have an ad. I actually have a slide in one of my old eXp presentations that I used to build, and it's the old the gentleman Shackleton, the gentleman who discovered the South Pole, right? He took the expedition to the South Pole, but he put an ad in the classified section for his expedition team, and the ad read something like "Wanted," dark, long, treacherous journey, hazardous, low pay, no guarantee of a safe return. But if we hit the goal, like glory and treasure beyond imagination, right? But it was like, you're going to die. You might die. It's going to be miserable. It's going to be the worst experience of your life. But and he had a line around the corner, right? And so I think about that, but that's how we were. We were literally pulling the sled down to the South Pole, and it was miserable, and it was cold, and there was just a few of us, and it was coming out of the ashes of the worst recession of our lifetimes. And it was a tough spot. Joining today, I'd say you're joining at the apex of opportunity, right? We're so dialed in. We've got healthcare benefits. We've got stock. We didn't have stock for the first 4 years. We didn't even have that. And so we've got stock.
On the NASDAQ. We're not talking about penny stocks here, people.
We're on the NASDAQ. We got market share. I mean, I was literally in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We were driving out of dinner. My son goes, look, Dad, there's an eXp sign. And we were in downtown Cheyenne. It was like there was nobody on the streets. It was crazy. And I saw a friggin' eXp sign on the store.
Out of the big cities. We're out on this deal. We're going to go to Cheyenne.
But that's it. I mean, I'm still pinch me. I mean, did I really have a role in this? I mean, that's like, to me, I'm still kind of like, hey, wow, is this really happening? And so, Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's like we really just, you couldn't be joining at a better time than today. I mean, the benefits package, the opportunity, and there's still, like you said, even if you just looked at the North American growth projection of 100,000 agents. And by the way, I was going to say part two of your answer is 500,000 global by 2030, maybe we'll say, right? So in the next 10 years, we should be 500,000 global. We're opening up 2 or 3 countries a year.
Talk to us about global. So we're Canada, US, heading into Mexico.
Well, so we're official in all 50 states, right?
Okay.
All Canadian provinces, and we're in UK and Australia. And now we're looking at 3 or 4 big countries and probably pop off in the next year. I don't want to get out ahead. We are a publicly traded company, and maybe this is a good time to say nothing I say is official company business. I am retired from corporate.
Every time I did press, they're like, "Oh."
Well, and that's, by the way, though, that's important to understand because it makes us more transparent.
Yes.
You know, if you think about other ownership pools and operating partners, like they're private companies, they can do whatever they want, and you don't get to see the numbers. We're audited by the Fed. You know, we've got the Securities and Exchange Commission checking us out and making sure that the leaders are getting paid what they're getting paid, and the stock is trading and this and that. So it's a very transparent organization from just being a member and being able to see what's going on, right? So
our stock is kicking butt and taking names, I might add.
Yeah, I mean, the stock is, well, and I think a lot of that is because eXp World Holdings isn't just a real estate company.
Right.
So, you know, for example, one of the things we own is the 3D cloud office that we utilize. So that 3D immersive office platform, we own that.
Right.
And I mean, if you're watching the news, you're seeing Glenn on CNBC debating Tommy Siebel, who's actually my uncle's brother. But I don't know, this is all kind of crazy coming together. But Tommy Siebel is one of the big Siebel Systems, is one of the biggest office owners in the country. And he was debating Glenn Sanford on working from home versus having to have an office. And they were debating on CNBC. And so we just picked up Dell. We just did a 9,000 person conference for Dell Computer in our cloud office.
Which is my backyard, and my son works for them. So there you go.
Stanford University now has a cloud office that they license through us. So it's called Virbela, VI.
Platform Virbela. Can we talk for a second about, because you know, we're going to start running over here, but can we talk a second about express offers?
Go ahead.
I got certified this weekend. Like, I heard about it. I spent my whole weekend on it. Like, bye-bye Open Door, bye-bye Zillow, bye-bye all of them. Like, it's just unbelievable. I had a call with our team and with Haas earlier, and I'm like, Haas, I'm not trying to take up the whole meeting, but y'all, you've got to get on express offers right now and get certified. Like, brilliant.
And that's our iBuyer program. And that is a testament to what kind of company and what kind of organization we are. I think a lot of times, and I've always said this, you know, throughout the years, but eXp is a lot like Google, right? Google will see something good out there and they'll just make it their own. They'll Googlefy it. For example, look at like a Microsoft Office, right? You used to have to pay all this money and have this, but then they make it free or they open source it, right? So now they have Google, Office suites or enterprise, right? So you get the spreadsheets and you get the, the presentation and the email, and it's all through their enterprise. And then and then FaceTime is great on your iPhone. Well, now they have Google Hangouts or, whatever. So whatever's good out there, eXp is very similar. We have kind of our own skunkworks, black ops, department where, keep in mind, Glenn was a techie, right? I mean, he is one of the most beautiful minds out there, and he thinks in 3D spreadsheets and numbers and analytics, and he's a idea person that is also an implementer. So he's very much the full package, and so he's training all of our staff, and he's bringing in some of the best tech people in the world. And so we're always looking at the next best thing that we can do to stay agile and be able to compete and stay relevant. So again, I mean, we're a full traditional real estate brokerage in terms of full commission buyers and sellers, but that's about where that starts and stops. I mean, after that, we are so much more than just a real estate. So if someone's looking at eXp, this is not a lateral move. You're not just trading one car engine for a new coat of paint, right?
No.
We're not this, I think of it as like, if you're running a bricks and mortar real estate company, that's horse and buggy technology. And we're putting automobile in. We're putting jet engines, as my friend John Lingo would say. We're putting
Tesla. Okay. We are the Tesla.
We're putting Tesla engines in your business, and you're going to have a sustainable, exit strategy. You can scale up your business. And by the way, I did the math the other day. I think if you join eXp, you're bringing in an additional 5 revenue stream potentially to your business. So there's obviously, the stock, the residual, but then there's also the ability to be a mentor and get paid for mentoring other agents.
Sure.
And then we've got some affiliated services that you can actually bring in additional revenues through some of our affiliated services programs.
Verbella's one of them.
And Virbela, you can be an affiliate and resell Virbela platforms. So if you've got educators, you got event planners that don't know where to go right now, I'm actually an affiliate for Virbela. So I've been introducing it to a lot of people. So again, what am I? I'm a wealth builder. And what's my philosophy? Stick your income straw in as many income streams as possible. And I don't care if it's $5 a month or $50,000 a month, it all adds up.
It does all add up. And, Brian, I cannot thank you enough. When I asked you to do this, you're like, what day? I said Monday. You're like, I'll clear my calendar. And, that is what I have found with all of the leaders at eXp, is that everyone, myself included, it's like, whatever you need, I'll do it, because that's what it takes, because everyone is a shareholder. I will only refer now around the country to agents that are eXp agents, and before, because it's all about our stock. It's all about building wealth. I mean, we're all partners. It's unbelievable. So what are your closing thoughts? Let's see. Oh, John Lincoln says, grow your business exponentially faster than a Tesla off the line. I like that. And of course, Tesla has now come to my country of Texas and into my town of Austin, Texas. I've done work with Tesla before, so it's exciting stuff. But Elon is so much, he's so ahead of the curve. And that's why in car lingo, I think of eXp being Tesla, because the vision is so far ahead of the competitors that I think the competitors are the ones out spreading all the false news, right?
Oh, for sure.
What else are they going to say?
For sure. And listen, some people are going to join and they're not going to take advantage of the model. And then, if you're not running the model to its fullest, you're probably going to get frustrated, and most people aren't good at blaming themselves. But all right, let's talk about the Tesla for a second. I think Elon Musk, and this will be my parting thought. Elon Musk decided, and by the way, I'm partners with Brian Carruthers. Haas and I work with him in another project, and he has he wrote the book Building an Empire. It's great. If you're out there, get it. Go get it on Amazon, Building an Empire, Brian Carruthers. But he has a core piece of philosophy. He says, whoever can help solve the most problems for the most people will be the most successful. And so I think of eXp as just another tool in my problem solving tool bag. It's another golf club in my solutions golf bag, right? And it allows for me to help solve more problems for more people. And I've got other opportunities that I've brought in, but again, eXp is the prima facie. It's the one that allowed me to do all these other great things. And and I'm just fortunate and I'm lucky that I took a chance. And I recognized mastery when I did. And Glenn had, early levels of inklings of mastery, and he was a black belt in martial arts. So I knew he was somebody that could put his mind and accomplish things. And, he had some really interesting philosophies. And so just, surround yourself with people who are doing really great things, and you're bound to be, doing really great things, right? I mean, it's not rocket science.
It is, the old saying, birds of a feather flock together. And I was on a call with Tarek. It was probably a week or two ago. And, he said something, and he goes, at the end of the day, like he was talking to somebody that I had brought on the call. And he said, this person said, but I'm so successful. I've done this, I've done that. And he's like, okay, great. That's great. How would you like to be more successful?
Happy's good. Happier is better.
That's the reason Tarek El Moussa is on the phone with you, is because you're successful. But
and
more successful.
And invest in yourself, because and that like you and Haas, I mean, that story just makes the hair on my arm stand up. But the fact that Haas literally spent their family's last $50,000 to meet Tarek at an event through the book publisher, and then they met and became friends, and then he got Tarek to bring his company over, and now we're building this global organization. I mean, had Haas not invested in himself,
taking a chance, right? I mean, no risk, no reward. You don't take a chance. Like, I invested my life savings to bring Fix It Again Tony back to America. People thought I'd lost my mind. I'm like, well, hell, I mean, either you go big or you go home, right? How many people out there are just, you're just sitting on the sidelines? You're always going to be broke or mediocre.
Well, it's like I paid $7,000 to go sit in with Gary V. Vaynerchuk, and someone asked him, like, what's your goal? And he goes, my goal is to be the most influential person in history. And everyone's like, oh, I can't believe he said that. That's so, oh my God. Like, and he goes, why wouldn't you say that? Like, what do you want to be, the second most influential person? Like, what's, you want to be like,
Probably, if not first, you're last, right?
or do you want to be 10,000th most successful? Like, shoot for the stars, because like you said earlier, you might as well fail forward. And if you shoot too low, you're going to end up being the junior account executive at the XYZ company. So.
Well, Brian, it has been a sincere pleasure, and thank you. You've imparted so much wisdom on this audience today. If you're catching the replay, be sure to share it out. And for those of you who are on here right now that you have not shared it out, share this out. There is somebody who needs to answer the call. Somebody out there needs to answer the call. If you want to work in my organization, just go to retirewithlisa.com and you can find out all about eXp. And if you've been talking to somebody else with eXp, call them up, pick up the phone and say, I'm going to answer the call.
And I want to share with you, because you're an amazing person. You're an amazing professional. I mean, just the limited time I've gotten to know you and spend some time with you, it's mind blowing what you've already done and how you've jumped in and rolled up both sleeves, and you just are really getting after it. And like, I see well, and a lot of people don't, but some will, some won't. Right. But just watching what you've done in a short period of time is just mind blowing. But, it really goes back to that core philosophy of, embracing the journey. And like you said earlier, I mean, if not you, then who? And who's writing the story? No one's coming to save us, right, Lisa? And the
government people, it's not going to happen.
And if you join with Lisa, you don't just get Lisa in your corner. You get Haas Pratt, you get Tarek El Moussa, you get Josh Troy, you get all these amazing people. So I say, you get Brian Culhane. I go, and Christy Culhane.
And Christy Culhane. Hi, Christy.
And my 3 kids are going to come over and spend the night at your house. But
come to my country, people. Come to my country.
We're going to road trip to a city near you. But what I like to say is, don't think of us as managers. We're not your bosses. We're investors in your success. And if you don't make money, we don't make money. So
that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, guys, I will give you all I got, because if you don't make money, I'm not getting paid.
Yeah. We're not managers. I'm not your boss. I'm a Shark Tank investor for the LisaCopeland enterprises, for the global empire that you're building, right? I want to invest in you. I want to pour into you. Amen. And by the way, I think it's a pretty safe bet to make.
I appreciate that, my friend. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Share this out, and continued success, Brian. I'm going to have you on again very soon so we can talk about more. And everybody out there, share this out. And if you're ready to pivot, if you're ready to say yes, and you know me, go to retirewithlisa.com. It's scrolling across the bottom. Or if you're on here because another eXp agent has invited you on, call them now. Make the call before it's too late.
Yeah, call me. I still answer my phone, and I even have a flip phone. See, because I'm
okay. I could have gone this whole show without seeing your flip phone and our technology-based company. But anyways,
no, I'm kidding. No, that's actually this is my safety phone I travel with. But no, I actually did take 3 months off and went to a flip phone because of health and mental hygiene. So it's all, listen, if you don't have your health, you don't have anything. And to me, your health is your wealth. And that's a big part of what we're doing. It's not just making money. It's personal.